this is exactly why I say you cannot go in pushing for VBAC. And if the hospital says that they don't support vaginal birth after more than one cesarean, believe them, because this mom ended up learning the hard way. And so it's not enough to hire a midwife who says that she'll support you. You also have to be very careful about the right environment that you're going to. And I lay that out in my book, Your Empowered Birth, and I'll probably be laying it out in future books and programs and everything, and on my YouTube channel. Links in the bio, by the way, if you want to go check out that book. But the fact is that it's just not enough. You have to have all 5 pillars of empowered birth in order to actually get the birth that you truly want and avoid the trauma. Because missing any one of them, if any one of these pillars is not optimized, this is when you might get a little bit of what you want, but you're not going to get the whole thing. This is what happens quite often to some of my clients, is if they are missing one of those pillars, if we have to change the plan and they have to go to the hospital that isn't truly supportive of what they want, they're going to have to stand their ground a little bit more, and they may still not come out completely unscathed, but it's still going to be a better experience than if they went in without any options and if they didn't have what I've already taught them. If they get scared and their mindset is not strong, then they're more likely to end up with a little bit of fear that leads to an intervention that they didn't actually want, but they thought in the moment they needed. If their partner's not on board, they end up giving in, or their partner pushes them in a direction that they didn't actually want to go. And I don't even want to get into what that can do to a marriage. If the care provider is not on board, or the wrong person is there that day, that can screw it up. And of course, the other one is if you don't have the right education, if you aren't aware of your rights, of your options, and you're not aware how physiological birth works, then that can also derail it, because you're back to asking about whether or not you're dilated. You're asking how long this is going to take. You're asking questions like, shouldn't my contractions be closer together? And you start to doubt yourself. And if you don't know your rights and your options, you don't know how to stand up to the system. You don't know how to advocate for yourself. You think that something's not allowed, so you just give in. You think, well, they said it wasn't allowed. They said it was too dangerous, so I guess that's it. I can't do it. But what really opened my eyes with this midwife is we were sitting in this, I would basically call it an education and support group, where we would gather once a month and we would have some speakers come in. And sometimes it would just be a circle of us just sitting and talking and sharing stories. And I was probably about 6 months pregnant at the time. And this midwife who was in this same network that I was in, she was also my midwife, which was pretty awesome. And she shared this story with me that I will never forget. Because at the time, one of my best friends, not Jenny, but Christine, who I mentioned inside my book, Your Empowered Birth. She's the one that had the home birth after cesarean. Well, I was thinking of her at the time, because she hadn't wanted to get pregnant again. She was so afraid she was going to get another C-section that she said that she was done. But just before her husband went for the vasectomy, they got pregnant. So she ended up having a little girl a couple of months after I had my daughter. And it was a beautiful home birth after cesarean that she hadn't planned to be a home birth. But the reason that I was really floored by this is that this midwife told me, she said to me, so when they say at the hospital that they don't support vaginal birth after more than one cesarean, they mean it. So she had a client that she truly believed could have had a VBAC after 2 C-sections, to the point that she had encouraged this mom. But mom got scared. Mom didn't know all her options. And of course, my midwife couldn't exactly tell her not to go into the hospital, because that would break protocol and that would break a whole bunch of taboos within the system. She would probably get reprimanded for that by saying, don't go to the hospital. So this mom showed up at the hospital, and the hospital decided not to call the midwife right away. So she was basically, this mom had been fighting and saying, but she said I could have a VBAC, and the hospital staff were like, yeah, but that's not allowed. You've had 2 C-sections. And they kept arguing with her, stressing her out, of course. This midwife, she showed up at the hospital finally. They finally called her. And 2 OBs were standing there outside the door, and another one was inside. They were tapping their feet. They had their arms crossed. They were really, really upset with her. They said, we told you, you can't support vaginal birth after 2 cesareans. Like, she was supposed to have a C-section. Like, what the hell were you thinking? And because, like, even though the baby was crowning, they pushed that baby back up and they gave that mom a C-section to teach that midwife a lesson. And to basically reinforce their rule of no vaginal birth after 2 C-sections. Now, this was way back in 2016. And I have never forgotten that story, because it told me 3 things. 1, that the medical system doesn't care if you are actively pushing a baby out. If they have a stupid rule that they want to enforce and keep the status quo, they can and they will push that baby back up and give you that C-section. Number 2 is this. Your midwife's hands are tied. This was just mind-blowing for me. How little power that this midwife had to be able to actually protect her client. And 3, don't go to the hospital until that baby is on its way out. And don't let anyone touch you, assess you, tell you what to do. You need to do this basically thinking, I'm only going to call in medical help if I actually want it, and I'm going to call in what I want, and I am not going to let them do their protocols. That's why you need a doula, because the doula is going to be able to bar the door and stand in the way. Sure, she might get thrown out of the room. Your partner, also the same thing. Your partner needs to be absolutely 100% on board. Your doula is not just there for you. Your doula is there for your partner. Your doula is there to reassure your partner, this is normal. You need to do your job as the partner and the protector, and protect your woman and protect her space and reassure her and be her rock. That's your partner's job, to be your rock. Your partner's job is also to advocate for you, because when you are in that space of labor, you can't advocate for yourself anymore. You need to actively be focused on your intuition and focusing on getting your baby out without fear. And to do that, you need to have a really, really strong birth team. It's not enough to just hire any doula. You need to hire the one that is going to be willing to stand there and guard the freaking door. They're not glorified hand holders. They're not glorified ice chip fetchers, as some nurses like to think they are. They are there to protect your space and to keep your partner in their role of protecting space, so that the medical system doesn't come in, scare your partner, and then talk your partner into talking you into doing something that you don't need to do. And it blew my mind hearing that story from that midwife. And that is exactly why when my labor stalled, I just realized it's like, oh, I can't call my midwife until I'm pushing, because her hands are tied by the system. So there was 2 reasons why that story came to my attention. One was because of my birth advocacy work. It's just going to take all of us. It's really going to take all of us to turn this around. And that's what Your Empowered Birth is all about. That's why I wrote the book in the first place. It's like, it's not just a typical birth book. It takes, like, you have to take action in order for anything to change. And right now I've seen that a lot of birth workers, they've been fighting this for years. There's been doulas that have been fighting this. We're seeing so much stuff. And when that midwife shared that story with me and telling me what she had gone through, what she was seeing, and recognizing, oh, your midwife can't protect you. And I recognized that that was the same thing with the other midwife that had tried so hard to protect me from the system the first time. And they just can't. They just can't. It's just not possible from where they're at. It's going to take more than just the birth workers fighting. It's going to take all of us. And that's why you need to get past your fear. You need to optimize the 5 pillars as I lay out in my system of Your Empowered Birth. It's on my YouTube channel. I teach this in all of my content. It's so important. This is how you optimize your life. This is how you empower yourself for life. This system, the 5-pillar system, works even in your parenthood. It works with anything you want to create. I even use this to get out of an abusive and toxic relationship. I use this to create my life, and I live a life I love now. I mean, I'm down at the beach. Sure, I'm in my tent at the moment, but the weather's going to turn and I get the ocean. So it's pretty awesome. Anyway, I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.